The funeral service for late veteran broadcaster Francois was held yesterday, which saw a number of individuals turning out in order to pay their final respect. Hi again and welcome. This is Links 007 TV News Report, and we'll be right back with the full and exclusive details to come. Welcome to Links 007 TV News Report, providing you with the best in local and international news updates. This is a place where you can get the most reliable and informative news information. Links 007 TV News Report. Hundreds of mourners and people from the media fraternity gathered on Wednesday afternoon at the St. Peter's and Paul Catholic Church for the funeral service of veteran broadcaster Francois. The veteran broadcaster passed away on August 29 at the University Hospital of the West Indies after ailing for some time. He was 60 years old. The veteran broadcaster was hailed by his colleagues and friends at his funeral service as an inspirer, a visionary, a humble icon of radio, and the greatest of all time in the business. Francois, who was a treasure of Fame FM and the RJR Communication Group, will always be remembered as a wonderful person both on air and in the studios. At his Thanksgiving service held on Wednesday afternoon at the St. Paul's Catholic Church in St. Andrew, Simon Clark Cooper, one of the proteges in the broadcast industry, told mourners that Francois was a tower of strength, support, and advisor in work and personal matters. The general manager in charge of broadcast services at the RJR Communication Group, Claire Grant, said that people will never forget how Francois made them feel when they heard his voice on the radio. Francois lived for as long as Jamaica has been independent and participated in the radio industry for 38 years. That was 38 years of continuous work. That is more than half the life of commercial radio in Jamaica. An amazing legacy, a dedication of time on the planet to Jamaica, to the broadcast industry, and to the group of companies. His Fame FM years kicked off his radio broadcasting journey in 1984 with him as one of the Fame Prince. From there unfold a reality of radio drama story which saw him transform over the years to a king of radio, on air at Fame FM, in the morning show Trivial Pursuit, and then to the leadership pinnacle as the first general manager of the radio group. And we most recently knew him for his great Up to the Morning concoction in Radio Jamaica at 7 a.m. Francois was an active member and past president of the Rotary Club of Kingston.
Good afternoon, everyone. Leave it to Francois to put me in a situation that's going to stretch me beyond limits, even when he's not around. When Brian called and asked me to do this, he prefaced his request with the words, "Sim, I have a tall order for you." Without even knowing what it was, I immediately said to him, "Brian, Francois has already stretched me to go above and beyond whatever I thought I could do. So whatever it is, I can and I will do it." Yet up until yesterday evening, as I sat staring at the blank screen and the blinking cursor in front of my computer, I did not know if I could do this. I had no idea where to start. I remembered Francois' words countless times. "It has to be done, Simone, so get it done. We don't have an option." Or he would say, "There's only one way to start. Just start." It sounds simple, right? But so much of his advice, now that I think about it, really was, which was part of what made him such a complex, complicated character. In one moment, he would make a profound utterance with his origins in physics or engineering or some other highfalutin discipline. The next moment, he'd be trying to convince you why it's important for you to know useless facts like the fact that a goldfish has a 3-second attention span. And then the next minute, he would matter-of-factly give out a simple, stripped-down, straightforward, but very deep and impactful statement. So before I started writing this, I remember the day, one of several actually, when I went into his office complaining yet again about this thing I couldn't do because, well, Francois is so easy on others and so hard on us. But we eventually got it. If he saw a lot in you, he wasn't going to stop until you saw it in yourself and became it. Francois, the mentor, the boss, the leader with the big heart. In the aftermath of his passing, many now know that while he was an extrovert off air, on air he could be labeled the exact opposite. When you met him for the first time, he just seemed so cool, calm, composed, serious even, until you knew that while he was that person, he was also so much more. Fun Francois was the absolute best. This is a Francois who played Christmas carols in July, who sat in his office while we played music in the Wider Fame office way too loudly, working, barefooted, sorry, Mrs. Grant, sometimes in groups on the office floor. The Francois who would come to your desk and see you tired and encourage you to take a 5 down at bottom yard, sorry, Mrs. Grant, a storage room we had downstairs so we could refresh and renew to come back to our desks and create anew. The Francois with the booming voice who laughed really hard through a ridiculously sheepish, high-pitched, silly-sounding giggle. The Francois who, by virtue of walking to his office door and standing in the doorframe with his car keys in hand, spoke a well-known language. It was field trip time. Sorry, Mrs. Grant. The Francois who would say annoyingly, ask me where we're going. The 4 or 5 of us, or more, depending on who was at the office that day, would hurriedly hustle from our desks before he changed his mind, packing into his vehicle to head to wherever he decided we were going that day. To this day, our favorite trips were the one to the zoo, where we ate so much cheese tricks and ice cream, I think some of us got sick, and our trip to Burger King, where we got crayons with our kiddies' meals, and one of our DJs was very upset that he never got the colors he wanted. Kurt, I am looking at you. We would have these excursions, come back to the office, and immediately get back to the grind. The work had to be done, but we were re-energized. Not only did we get it done, it was excellently done, because his standards were set so high that slacking off in achieving our goals and objectives just was not an option. He played hard, but he was serious about the work and unmovable where quality control was concerned. Then there was the fabulous Francois. Vanity personified. Francois was vain. He was easily bribable with box food. Worse if it was a stew piece from Lewin's Hardware across the road, with a whole Scotch bonnet as a side order. The man would take a forkful of stew peas and white rice, shovel it into his mouth, then bite the pepper like a fruit, and keep talking to you while he's drawing on his nose and wiping. Because, of course, that's what peppers do, right? Did he stop eating? No. No, that same Francois would later come to the conclusion that his midsection was spreading a bit too rapidly, and it was the rice's fault. And so the dieting would begin. Protein and vegetables became his mainstay, and we were so impressed with his will, discipline, and ultimately his results that many of us too hopped on board the Atkins protein diet train. I guess you could say we had our very own influencer in Francois from those times. And he was enigmatic. So you had to be strategic on your approach, especially on days you had meetings where you knew you had to convince him of something. You best believe you could not approach him unprepared, because if the question existed on the face of this earth, he was going to ask it in whatever permutation he could find. Francois' mind was so incredibly detailed and sharp that he had the ability to question you until you wondered if your name was your name and if your birth date was really legitimate. Sometimes it was frustrating. Other times it was too much fun. Because of how he was in this regard, I used to go into meetings very well prepared, with drawings of venues and layouts when we had events. If it could be drawn, I would try to draw it, stickman and all. And I would walk into his office with my papers in hand, and he would immediately start laughing. He would take my renderings and turn them upside down, sideways, and he would say, "Then what is this? And what is that supposed to be?" But it was when he took them and started to make his own corrective diagrams that everything turned to complete madness. And by the time we were done, we'd both be in tears at the abstract art we had created. This was a ritual. Cezanne and Dee would be watching as if watching the newest onstage play, and it went on for years. None of us could have imagined that a year and change later, Francois would not be here. Francois was brave. He was loyal, he was true, he was honest. He was a man of integrity. He was someone you could trust. He was a pioneer, he was an innovator, he was a maverick, he was a mystery solver, he was a magic maker, he was an artist. He was a luminary. He was visionary in his thought and outlook. He never thought limits, so he never placed limits. He was a paradox, a practical perfectionist, a dream maker, a dream chaser, a dream inspirer. He was a creator, a motivator, a mentor, a counselor, an equalizer. He lived for a challenge. He loved a good laugh, a juicy story. He was love. He was light. He was a man for the people, of the people. As Trisha put it, he was just a good man. He was a giant, a quiet, gentle, unassuming giant with a huge heart and a humble spirit, who I don't think quite understood the community he created, the legacy he curated. It is a legacy that will always live, because we, who he inspired, will never let it die. We promise that to you, Francois, Alain, Gregory, Saint-Just. Thank you for who you were. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for what you meant. Thank you for how you lived. Thank you for making us better as people, and Jamaica better as a nation. In the words of one of your favorite Stevie Wonder songs, we will be loving you always. We will never forget you, always in our hearts. Rest in sweet peace in the arms of God and the arms of your grandma, your mom, Marguerite, and your dad, Chappie.
We here at Links 007 TV would just like to take this opportunity just to express our heartfelt and sincere condolences to his family and friends. This has been Links 007 TV News Report. Thanks for watching.